Alright, we're jumping in with some news updates. It's going to be a very important weekend for Bungie as they launch Marathon. Bungie jump in and kind of try and calm some concerns about microtransactions, season passes, seasonal resets, the cost of DLCs and all of that stuff today. And it's interesting because while some things are quite similar to Destiny 2, such as the in-game currency, which basically behaves like silver, other things are quite different. Free DLCs, seasonal upgrades and all that kind of stuff. And it really does highlight how much Bungie have been able to monetize Destiny 2 specifically over the years. So we'll talk about a bit of the contrast there. And for those who are worried that I'm not going to continue to cover Destiny 2, just as a quick note here, we will go into it in more detail in a moment, but I'm absolutely still committed to covering Destiny. One of the big challenges I have is that we're in a huge content drought at the moment, and with Bungie focusing so much on their new thing, we're not getting a lot of communication or news about the future. When we do start to get that, relating to the June update, precisely what that will turn out to be, we don't fully know yet, but when we get that info, I will keep you posted. And I'd be really happy if Bungie confirm that they do have more expansion content coming for D2, or even if they say they're going to make a D3 or something. I'm not massively hopeful for the D3 thing right now, just based on Bungie's track record at the minute. But if it is going to be a thing, I'd be incredibly excited. So just because I'm doing some coverage of Marathon around its launch doesn't mean that I've lost my commitment to Destiny 2. I've had comments saying that I'm personally throwing Destiny 2 away to do other gaming news or Marathon coverage, but that isn't the case. Empathize with me for a moment. I can't cover what we don't have to cover, right? But I'll get onto that more in just a moment. Right, Marathon. A lot of folks are going to be watching the player counts over the course of this weekend, and we know that that's a really important metric, looking at the success of Arc Raiders. When you see the player numbers they've achieved, it's easy to understand why that game is successful. In contrast, however Marathon performs will give us an idea of whether that's what Bungie will be hoping to see. And as we know, Marathon apparently has cost a lot of money to produce. There's rumors that it's like $250 million. That is unconfirmed, but Joe Cross himself, who previously worked for Bungie, had alluded to the game costing hundreds of millions of dollars, so maybe it's along the right lines, but we'll probably never truly know. Either way, with that big spend and Sony's very high expectations of Bungie, we know that this has to perform well. And one of the problems for any of us who still want to play Bungie games, whether it's Destiny 2 or something else, is that Sony are incredibly brutal when things underperform. So that in itself is a news story to keep track of over the course of the weekend, and I absolutely will be. But with news over the past few days that Marathon will get its own microtransaction currency, which basically behaves like silver, in Marathon it's called Lux, and it's a premium currency used to buy items in the store, again purchased on the platform and then spent on the in-game store. Yeah, it basically is the same thing that silver is. But Bungie offer an update and they say, in Marathon, seasonal gameplay content is free for all players to access or earn, including zones and runner shells. There is no pay for power, plus reward passes do not expire, and you can buy previous season reward passes if you wish. That's interesting, because obviously Bungie did a very similar thing with Destiny 2 a few months back. And this is a big contrast against Destiny 2, where annual expansions, seasons, and most of the major content drops have been paid over the years, so Bungie are kind of trying a different strategy here. Bungie also did make Destiny's major updates technically free for all players, but as we saw with Ash and Iron, most of it was considered fairly lackluster, so I hope that Shadow and Order, the next update for Destiny, will do a better job. Back to Marathon, Bungie have said you unlock rewards in your passes using Silk, which is earned by playing the game. Silk cannot be purchased, but premium reward passes include cosmetics, not gameplay items, and cosmetics are also earnable through the codex with others available for purchase, and then the premium currency Lux can only be used for cosmetics with no gameplay advantages. They also say Silk is a bonus included with the purchase of the deluxe edition only, and it's otherwise unavailable for purchase, but I assume that all players can still earn it by actually playing the game. So you'll pick out a few stark differences between the two titles there. But another really big component with Marathon will be the seasonal resets, and Bungie had said you'll start fresh every season with nothing. The only things that will carry over are kind of cosmetic rewards, titles, and things that do not directly affect gameplay. But over the course of the season, they assure players that we'll be able to once again complete contracts, progress your faction upgrades, and gain access to stronger base stats and better wares in the armory. It's not just about what you loot, it's about raising your power floor and the options available to you. So over time, recovering from a bad loss will get easier, and crafting your ideal build will be more accessible. Another minor comparison here, I guess, is that Bungie tried to at least take a component of this with the power grind plan they had when they dropped Edge of Fate. They later ditched that plan, obviously. And I appreciate these kinds of seasonal resets may sound like a lot of work to some players, so you'll just have to give me your thoughts about that down below. As I said though, overall we will track how Marathon actually performs over the course of this weekend, where some express concerns over extraction shooter fatigue and Bungie's past challenges, wondering if Marathon can hold players long term. Well, my friends, we will find out. Bungie are probably pleased that Marathon is currently #1 in the world in the top 100 best-selling games by revenue. That will be more encouraging for Bungie, I suppose, if it's still the case come Sunday or Monday going into next week, right? Player numbers in the first day or so will be important, but as we go through the course of the weekend, that will be arguably an even bigger tell. And we know that there's concern all around here because whether you like Marathon or you don't like Marathon, but you do like Destiny or any combination of those things, we know that Sony are incredibly brutal and have super high expectations of Bungie and their ability to generate revenue. We know that D2 has struggled with that in the last couple of years, ever since Final Shape really, but it has been a worsening situation. And so if Marathon also struggles with that, it more than likely will spell serious trouble for Bungie. So, like I said, that will be a news story in itself, and I'll be tracking it over the next few days. A shout out to my D2 buds though, once again, and especially for those who don't like Marathon, there probably is a feeling. Actually, I can relate to this feeling because Marathon has been a learning curve for me as well. I'm currently enjoying quite a few components of the game. I'm not telling anyone else they have to enjoy it, but there definitely is a feeling of like kind of being left out, right? And as I said the other day, I'm totally aware of how poorly Bungie have handled D2 over the last year or so, ultimately getting to this point where we still didn't get the roadmap and they've pushed out and delayed content that we were supposed to get in March, instead pushing it to June. And I doubt that Bungie ever wanted things to go that way. This is probably more kind of a result of missteps and mistakes that they've made over the last 5 years, right? This is kind of ultimately the culmination of numerous different things that have gone wrong. And absolutely, the vast majority of those things, as we know, are Bungie's mistakes, and ultimately the responsibility for them lands in Bungie's lap. So don't assume that I'm under any illusion about that. And like I said, when we do get Destiny stuff, I'll absolutely cover it. But if some of you guys can empathize with me for a moment, I have to do something in the meantime, right? I can't just wait for Destiny to hopefully come back to life in a couple of months. In the short term, we'll have Guardian games and some Iron Banner stuff, so I'll keep you posted when we get info about that, and I'll cover it in the way that I always cover Destiny stuff. In the meantime, I think I'm bound to just get a lot of hate, right? Because a lot of people kind of see it that you pledge allegiance either to one title or the other. And realistically, for content creators, as you're seeing in your feeds right now, right? Because the vast majority of all of the Destiny channels you've been watching for a long time are covering things about Marathon. And the reason for that is that it matters to Bungie's survival moving forward, but also we just don't have the Destiny 2 stuff to cover. So I don't need you guys to feel sorry for me or anything, but if you could empathize at least a little bit with the fact that we've got to do some stuff, right? Sometimes it's totally different things, like the kind of gaming news videos I've been doing. I've actually found those really refreshing to make on a personal level, and I will be doing more of it. But at the same time, I'm absolutely not throwing Destiny away. When Bungie give us content to cover, when Bungie give us news to cover, I'll be there, man. 100%. Destiny is my favorite game, basically ever. And finally, there is another kind of margin of players, I suppose, who feel totally burned by Bungie and don't plan to play Destiny or any other Bungie title in the future. And I can't blame you, right? On the basis of how Destiny 2's been handled, you're absolutely entitled to feel that way. Just keep in mind that I don't make the decisions about what Bungie do, right? And I'm absolutely in the same boat that most of you guys are. But I either have to kind of weather the storm, see how things go with Marathon, try to do other video content as well, and then ultimately, we will hopefully have loads of cool Destiny stuff to talk about in a few weeks. But the alternative is that I just stop making content and pack it up, go down to McDonald's and ask for a job. And they'd probably say to me, "You're that guy who made a Marathon news video, aren't you? Son, you ain't having a job here. McDonald's hate Marathon. Confirmed." Guys, I'm going to do my best to stick around one way or another, but yeah, it's been rocky and I think it will still be rocky for some time. So we'll see how it goes, and if I just vanish one day, you already know why, right? For the moment though, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have an awesome day.